All right, what up, y'all? AWB, I'm back at it. About to get started with this uh trial from Chille or Delete Laws channel. As y'all probably know, if not, he was arrested for basically filming in public and hurting the cop's ego. And this was the trial for that. And I didn't see the entire trial, but from what I saw, it seemed like they were being biased from the jump. Just in the beginning part of this. So I'm gonna review this I'm gonna review this trial with y'all, and we can have a conversation about it in the chat. Hey, what's up, Brady? I appreciate that. So have you seen this trial yet with Chille and Delete Laws channel? I don't agree with everything that Delete Laws does. Uh, well, I mean, now let me say this, because I do agree with what he does. I don't agree with the way that the way that he does it. Like he does his style, or the way he does it, it's like poking the bear. So he actually tries to poke the bear, and you know, which is still freedom and still free speech and everything, but you got to be aware of what comes with that. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's Hey Karen, it's good to see you too. Uh yeah, yeah, but with his style, it's like he posts the bear. It's a lot of name calling and stuff like that. I don't agree with that style, even though it's still free speech, but you know, yeah, how are you, Karen? How you been feeling? I haven't been 100% myself, so I haven't really checked any emails or anything like that. But I just wanted to go over this trial because I think it's important. It's an important trial in this, in this community. But yeah, I want to know what y'all thoughts were on it. Brady, yeah, I'm good. I'm good. I was pretty much feeling under the weather. Like I one day I had, like, a couple of days I had a real bad headache, and wasn't and my stomach wasn't the best. Yeah. Oh, I remember you saying that, Karen. And sorry to hear that. I know that's a tough decision to make. Sean Lewis said, "I think it's a bunch of BS while mixed." That's that's what I'm saying. As far as this trial goes, I definitely think there was a lot of bias in this trial with the judge and everybody. They just didn't seem like he was getting a fair trial. What's going on? What's up, Gabriel? Yeah. So tonight we getting ready to go over this trial that Chille had versus the state of Nevada. And I don't remember exact charges, but the cop basically arrested him because uh Chille hurt his ego pretty much. He told him to go do his job, and called him like a little doggy. And when he did that, the cop was like, "Oh, I'm going to detain you," and all that. First, he was just filming and he was talking to the person in the car and kind of basically interviewing the person that got pulled over. It looked like they were in the middle of a parking lot, and the cop was behind the person. I guess he went back to the car to go get that person a ticket or whatever. And Chille had walked up, and he didn't walk all the way up. I want to be careful with the way I say it, but he entered the area, I guess, and he was talking to the driver and asking what happened and things like that. And the cop didn't like that. The cop was like, "Oh, back up and this and that. Oh, you can't. This is my stop." That control thing, the control thing that cops do. And which from the video, it looks like Chille actually complied with it. He just didn't regulate his free speech. He still was saying what he wanted to say, and the cop just really didn't like it. So I think, matter of fact, before we look at the trial, I think it's better that we see the initial stop that caused it. Let's look at that first. Let's look at that first. So we can get an idea of what actually caused this issue. So y'all give me a second. Y'all give me a second while I try to find the video that actually caused this trial. So I may not be able to find the exact video, but here we go. Arrested. Yeah, I'm gonna find that video, and then we can get an idea of why he's actually in this trial. I wonder why wouldn't he just post a link to that video though? Maybe. Oh no, they showed it in the trial. We good. All right, y'all. So they show it during the case, so I think we'll be good. I just find out so you can. Hey, Brady, you talking about my IG or I'm not sure. Yeah, that's 180 days, or what is that? 6 months is crazy. Just for hurting the cop feelings. 6 months in jail for hurting the cop's feelings, and the corrupt judge that will support that. And that's what I talk about all the time when I say, "Oh, you think it's just gonna be simple? Oh, you just gonna go and you just gonna take when people are like, oh, take the ride, just take the ride. No, because you end up in situations like this. You could not have done anything, but you end up with a corrupt judge, and now he's facing 6 months in jail based on nothing. No laws broke. He didn't break any laws. They didn't. They convicted him of some BS like that. I don't see how he ended up doing 6 months for this. And it what makes me mad is the people who are happy about it. Like, oh, he finally got what that should be we all should be looking at that like and be terrified that this can happen to anybody, no matter what. You can go and stand up for your rights and end up not having a fair trial because the judge is corrupt and biased, and you end up doing 6 months for nothing. That is really scary. What's up, Kid Cool? What's up? What's up? But yeah, that but let's go ahead and get started. But I keep telling people that's why I'm not eager to just, oh yeah, take me in. No, take me in. No. You don't know you don't know what that judge is gonna be like. You don't know if you even gonna make it to where they trying to take you. Like, it's all type of stuff you got to be thinking about. Then you gotta wonder if your equipment is gonna make it. All of this will happen and they'll delete your evidence. Now you don't have no evidence. There's your word against theirs, and everybody's corrupting the whole system. You up against a lot.
5. Okay.
Good morning, Agnes Botello for the state.
Are you Mr. DeCastro? Can you turn off the phone, please? The one that's in your hand.
Just communicating with my lawyer. He's on his way here now. I'm just waiting for him to get there.
All right, I'm gonna wait for your attorney, okay?
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Jose DeCastro.
So before we get started, they did not allow him to represent himself, which, I mean, you should have that option. I wouldn't recommend represent myself or somebody representing themselves, but you do have that option, which he didn't have that option because I think she forced him to.
Castro, 23 CR 013015.
Good morning, Your Honor, Agnes Botello, and David Cave for the record. Good morning, state.
Good morning, Michael. Me on behalf of the defendant present with me this morning.
So I have signed 2 media requests that permit recording or photographing these proceedings, but I have not granted any other requests to record or live stream these proceedings. So I need Mr. DeCastro and everybody else who wants to stay in the courtroom to surrender their phones, or you can leave.
Look how she just shut down the First Amendment right there because she knows she about to do some underhanded stuff. I'm glad we do have some type of video for this, but the honorable and Zimmerman. Oh no, we know about that Zimmerman name.
I need Mr. DeCastro to empty all of his pockets.
What's that?
Yeah, empty your pockets and give up your phones to the judge.
I have to give you my phones?
Crazy.
Yeah.
My phone's actually completely off.
Yep. I don't really want to be part of your YouTube channel. So,
You already are.
great,
You already are.
awesome.
I'm not gonna get into this guy though. I'll get into someone else.
No.
Touch him.
So the judge just said she doesn't want to be a part of the YouTube channel, but the judge, is a public servant. This is what this whole thing is about. They are public servants. Why don't they know that?
No, they're gonna go to my marshal.
He's a pig.
Excuse me?
I said he's a pig.
Okay. So I'm not gonna permit you to speak to anybody in my courtroom in that manner. And if you don't want to apologize, I'm gonna hold you in contempt.
I apologize.
So she gonna hold them into like this is the part that I started like within the first 2 minutes. It's just starting off crazy. She's gonna hold him in contempt because he called the bailiff or whatever a pig. Like, come on now. And if you don't say sorry, I'm gonna hold you in. Like, come on now. What is that? What is that? What law is? What is that? That's just her feelings.
This is the court, Your Honor.
No, you can apologize to, they've done nothing to you.
Actually, Your Honor, when you were here, you came over and gave me a directive for no reason, started telling me what to do.
Okay,
I
well,
have all the respect and love for the court. I follow the rule of law all the time.
no, it is their job to maintain the safety and security of the court.
I agree with you, Your Honor.
So if you want to speak like that in my courtroom, I'm gonna hold you in contempt. And if I hold you in contempt, you're going to jail. That is not my wish.
So she is directly capping his free speech. That's what that is. She is trying to regulate and control his free speech. She's doing it right in the courtroom. This is exactly why he films, and that's exactly why we do this in exercising our rights. That this is the exact reason.
Okay?
I wish you could.
All right. So I need you to empty your pockets too. Suit pocket, pants pocket.
This is illegal. This is a violation of my Fourth Amendment.
No, it isn't.
Yes, it is. I don't have any recording devices on me. What are you talking about?
How about suit jacket?
I don't have anything on me. This is preposterous.
No, it's
This
not.
really is.
No, it's not.
Yes, it is.
Mr. Me, your phone too.
They're recording everything.
They have a media request.
Right, and I'm not recording anything. Your guy here took my phone, so his phone's not on.
Right.
What is the difference between them recording and him recording? They have a media request. That was her answer to that. How do people get in these positions being so ignorant to the law? Clown show.
No, I'm not gonna take the lawyer's phone. He's an officer of the court. All right, do we have everybody's phones? Are they off? All right, good. All right. All right, this is the time set for the trial of State of Nevada versus Jose DeCastro, 23 CR 013015. Is the state ready to proceed?
Yes, we are, Your Honor.
How many witnesses do you have?
We anticipate one.
All right, is the defense ready to proceed?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right. I have your request to convert counsel to standby counsel. I'm going to deny that request. Either you represent him or he should have previously requested a Faretta canvas to represent himself. That I just consider that a delay tactic, so that request is denied. Are you ready to proceed? Otherwise, I'm assuming you are.
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, will the state please call the first witness?
Yes, Your Honor. The state calls Brandon Bork, and he's in the anteroom. Follow me on the website.
Morning.
You're gonna remain standing, raise your right hand to be sworn in. Do you solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Please be seated, state your name for the record, and spell it first and last name, please.
It's Brandon Bork. Brandon is BRAN.
So he just swore to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. Let's see if he does that.
DEN. Bork. BOURQUE.
Thank you. Please go ahead.
Thank you. Sir, good morning.
Good morning, ma'am.
Sir, how are you employed?
I'm a police officer with the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department,
How long have you been employed with Metro?
just over 8 years.
What is your, what's your occupation there? Like, where are you assigned?
I currently am a field training officer at Summerlin Area Command.
Okay. And so are you a patrol officer
Yes, ma'am.
that also trains newer officers?
Yes,
Were you employed with Metro? I'm assuming you are, because you've been employed for 8 years, back on March 15th of 2023.
yes, I was.
Were you a patrol officer at that time?
Yes, I was.
As a patrol officer, do you wear a uniform?
Yes, I do.
Can you describe the uniform?
It would be the same uniform I'm wearing today.
Okay, and so for the record, you're wearing a tan uniform with the logos, Vegas Metropolitan Police Department, located throughout your shirt.
Yes,
Okay. As a patrol officer, do you have access to or utilize a marked patrol vehicle?
yes.
And can you describe what this marked patrol vehicle looks like?
It's black and white in color and it has the LVMPD's logo on all sides.
Okay. And is it also equipped with like lights and sirens?
Yes,
And so you were employed as a patrol officer back on March 15th of 2023.
yes.
At some point in time, did you conduct a traffic stop while you were working in that capacity
Yes, I did.
on that date?
Yes,
And was that for a vehicle bearing license plate 748Z, like zebra, T like Tom, B like boy?
yes.
And why did you stop that vehicle?
I had conducted a DMV records check on that license plate and it came back expired and suspended.
And where is it that you stopped that vehicle?
It was 4155 South Grand Canyon, which was near Target.
Okay. Is that over on Flamingo and Grand Canyon?
Yes,
Okay, and that's here in Las Vegas, Clark County, Nevada, sir?
yes,
And you indicated it was for a license plate that was expired and suspended?
yes.
So when you initiated the traffic stop, what did you do or how did you do that?
I approached the driver, let her know the reason for the stop, obtained her identifying information, registration, insurance.
Okay, and I forgot to ask you earlier, but pursuant to your uniform and as a patrol officer, are you equipped with a body worn camera?
Yes, I am.
And do you also have a radio?
Yes, I do.
Okay. And are those items, both the body worn camera and the radio, on your uniform today?
Yes, they are.
Okay, and is that how the body worn camera and or the radio were on your uniform back on March 15th of 2023?
Yes,
And to your knowledge, was your body worn camera functioning at that time?
yes, it was functioning.
And so you made contact with the driver of that Hyundai.
Yes, I did.
How would you characterize the nature of your encounter or the nature of your encounter with that driver?
She was cooperative with me. I explained the reason for the stop. She seemed confused, not sure exactly how it had become suspended, but she was friendly and cooperative.
Okay, and she identified herself.
She did. She had a picture of her license on her phone.
Okay. And at some point, sir, did you go back to your patrol vehicle to further your investigation?
I did.
And as you were, let me ask you this. When you effectuated the traffic stop on this vehicle, where did you park or stop your vehicle in relation to the Hyundai that you were stopping?
I parked approximately 10, 15 feet behind the stopped vehicle. We ended up in a parking lot.
Okay. And was the driver the sole occupant of the vehicle?
Yes,
And so when you returned to your patrol vehicle to conduct your further investigation, was the driver within eyesight?
yes, she was.
Okay. And is it your habit and custom and also your training to keep the individual that you are, dealing with within eyesight?
Yes,
And so at some point while you were still in your vehicle, in your patrol vehicle, did something occur that's causing you to have to testify before Judge Zimmerman today?
yes, I had an unrelated person come over to start recording the traffic stop.
Okay. And we talked about your body worn camera previously, but did you activate your body worn camera prior to the traffic stop?
Yes, I did.
Okay. just before you initiated the traffic stop?
I initiated the stop and then I immediately activated my camera.
Okay. And how is it that body worn camera is activated on your uniform, sir?
I have a battery pack that's on my belt in the front, and I press the activation button, which is in the front.
That is not even important. Why is she asking questions like that? How do you activate your body cam? You turn it on. What does it have to do with this case at all?
Okay. And so is it just a tap of that activation button?
It's a double tap on the front, yes.
Okay. And how is it that you would stop recording?
I would hold down that same power button,
Okay.
or it can be turned off. There's a toggle switch on the top that slides on and off.
Okay. Okay. And so your body worn camera was running as of, the traffic stop being initiated.
Yes,
Okay. And so you described an unrelated individual coming over to, your stop.
yes.
Okay. Can you describe this individual?
He was a white male adult. He was wearing bright colored hoodie and blue jeans.
Okay. That individual, do you see him here in court today?
Yes, I do.
Can you please point to him and describe something he's wearing?
He's wearing a suit and a blue tie.
Your Honor, please let the record reflect identification of the defendant.
So ordered.
And so what do you do upon seeing this individual approach the driver of the vehicle you had stopped?
Initially, when I saw him, he was just recording. I ignored him, continued my records check. Then when he came over to the driver and started speaking to them, I got out of the car, approached the driver and told DeCastro to back up.
Okay.
Then when he came over, he was just recording. I ignored him, continued my records check. Then when he came over to the driver and started speaking to them, I got out of the car, approached the driver and told DeCastro to back up.
Okay. When you first noticed, so you identified the unknown or unrelated male subsequently, correct?
Yes,
And what was his name?
Jose DeCastro.
Okay. And that's the individual you identified here in court.
Yes,
Okay. And so when you first laid eyes on the defendant, approximately how far away was he from the driver of the vehicle in the Hyundai?
approximately somewhere within 5 to 10 feet.
Okay. And you indicated that he was recording?
Yes,
Okay. What did you see that led you to believe he was recording?
he had his cell phone camera pointed directly at me.
Okay. And so is that when, upon seeing him being that close to the driver, is that when you told him, you walked up to the driver of the stopped vehicle and asked Mr. DeCastro to back up?
Yes, once he started talking with the driver.
Okay. And why is it that you did that, officer?
Well, I can't have unrelated people next to my traffic stops. I don't know if he's a dangerous person, armed. He could be a boyfriend of the stopped person. It's for my safety and the safety of the person I've stopped.
Okay. Because you're also in charge of the safety of the individual that this unrelated individual is making contact with. Is that fair to say?
Yes,
And so you saw it as an officer safety issue as well as a safety issue for the driver.
yes,
Okay. And so when you approached, well, you said he was recording, the defendant was recording. At any time, did you tell him to stop recording?
no. In fact, I told him he can continue recording.
Okay. He can continue to record given what?
As long as he backed up and gave me an appropriate distance to work.
Okay. And so when you asked the defendant to back up, did he follow your order?
No, he did not.
Okay. And so what did you do next?
I gave him 3 additional warnings to back up.
Okay. And did he obey those orders?
No, he did not.
And what, if anything, did you do with the driver of the stopped vehicle, the Hyundai?
At that point, I chose to release the driver of the Hyundai and then focus my attention on Jose DeCastro.
Okay.
So that's where the bullshit started off. Because for one, he did back up. And for two, if the issue was him, if you say he can keep recording as long as he backs up, so why did you arrest him? He already backed up. He wasn't even close to begin with. He was at least 10 feet from the start of this. So you want him to be back another 10 feet? That reminds me of this video that I have up with this cop in Miami telling me to back up 10 feet. And I tell him I'm more than 10 feet. And then he says, oh, well, 10 more feet, just 10 more feet. And at that point, I wasn't moving no more. But it's just ridiculous. The whole point of this arrest is because this cop got his feelings hurt and his ego was bruised. That's the whole reason for this. If you listen to this, it still doesn't make sense right now. So you're saying that he didn't back up, but he did back up. And if somebody walks up to you and then tells you to back up, you don't have to back up at that point. They walked up to you. So that's why I don't understand. Why do they feel like they can walk up to you and then tell you to back up? If somebody doesn't approach you, but you approach them and then you tell them to back up, what sense does that make?
And for the record, officer, at that point in time, were you the only uniformed officer, the only officer present at the scene?
Yes, ma'am.
And so at this point, you were dealing with the stop driver as well as an unrelated individual.
Also, the stop was over. He let the driver leave. So the driver's not there no more. It's just him and his hurt feelings at that point. There's nothing's going on here anymore. The driver left, the stop is over, but the cop is here escalating this situation because of his ego and his hurt feelings. And how the judge ruled in the favor of this cop doing that is disgusting. And it makes no sense. And I don't know how she's allowed to continue doing that when that's obvious bias and she's not following the law.
Visual and having to make contact or maintain visual both.
Yes,
And at that point, the defendant was not being cooperative.
correct, yes.
So you release the driver of the Hyundai. What do you tell that person to let her go?
I just said that she was free to go, simply.
And subsequently, did you turn your attention on the defendant?
Yes.
And can you tell Judge Zimmerman the nature of your interaction with the defendant after that?
I ordered DeCastro to the front of my patrol vehicle while pointing at it and told him that he was detained
And what was the purpose of detaining him?
for obstructing my initial traffic stop at the Hyundai.
And did he obey your lawful order?
No, he did not.
And what happened next?
He continued filming me. I continued pointing toward my patrol vehicle, continued telling him he was detained. All the while, he just continued shifting his body around, recording me on the phone, and refusing to go to the car.
Okay. So what did you do in response?
I used my hand to escort him to the patrol vehicle. So I placed my hand on his shoulder, and at that point, he swatted my hand away.
And what happened next?
That's when I grabbed him by the shirt, and I spun him around, and then we ended up at the front of my patrol vehicle. We were both still standing.
At some point, did you request additional units to respond to the scene?
I did, that was before I grabbed him,
Okay.
when I initially detained him.
Okay. And, I'm sorry, once you had him at your patrol vehicle, or the front, the hood of your patrol vehicle, what happened next?
Officer Dingley, another officer in the area, had arrived, and he came over to help me handcuff.
And were you successful, or did the defendant cooperate in being handcuffed?
He did not cooperate. I told him 7 times to face my patrol vehicle. He did not listen. I told him 6 times to turn around. He did not listen. It wasn't until I told him that he was going to go to jail, that was the consequence of not listening, that he allowed us to handcuff.
Okay. And after he was handcuffed, when he was handcuffed, was it just you and Officer Dingle present?
Yes.
Once he was handcuffed, what, if anything, happened next?
He continued to argue with my partners, Officer Dingley and some other officers that were starting to show up. And then I focused my roles in completing the report and calling the sergeant because he requested a supervisor.
Okay. And at some point, was he arrested for account of obstructing a public officer
Yes,
and also for resisting a public officer or resisting arrest?
yes.
And was he, at any point in time during your interaction with him or your continued visual of his interaction with other officers, did he cooperate with any of the officers present at the scene?
No, he kept shifting around, and normally we have people stand still in front of our car, and I could hear him arguing with the other officers.
You indicated you had your body worn camera turned on at this time.
Yes,
Did you have an opportunity to look at your body worn camera prior to court today?
yes, I did.
I were to show you a snippet of it, and Your Honor, we're going to be screen sharing through Zoom. It takes a minute. Okay. Officer, are you able to see, there's not a screen over there, so I might have to bring mine over to you with the court's permission. Okay.
Like, honestly, I feel like I don't know how his lawyer wasn't able to completely like shut everything down. Like, I don't know how this is so, it's so many holes to this. It's so many things that don't make sense. It's so many things that just don't line up, nothing. Yet he was still found guilty of that, which is, you know, like Marcy say in the comments, they railroaded him right in front of us. And I still can't believe that it's people who reviewed this trial and talked about this trial and only have bad things to say about Chille personally. This is not about him personally. This is about what the system does to regular citizens who are exercising their rights. It's bigger than Chille. That's what they got to get past. It's bigger than Chille. People are cheering and laughing and being happy about this because they don't like Chille personally. But if you take away that, if you take away Chille and put somebody else here, this could be anybody who decides to exercise their rights and they hurt a cop feelings. You can be railroaded 6 months. Unbelievable. His lawyer had to be trash. What type of lawyer? That's why he should have been able to represent himself. And I know he wanted to, because I could represent myself better in that, especially if in a situation like this. Come on now. His story, I would have poked so many holes in his story. It wouldn't have. Come on, man. That's BS. So the stop is over. You let the driver go, but you're still pursuing me for what? MGM, what's up? What's up? I know you got a lot to say about this trial. let's get back to it.
Okay. Officer, I'm showing you my computer screen. Is it fair to say that what's being shared on the screen as well as what's showing up on my computer screen are two files, one labeled 416b.mp4, the other one labeled 468, number sign 1.mp4.
Yes,
Okay. I am just gonna, and for the record, Your Honor, all body worn camera footage have been disclosed to the defense well in advance of today's trial. I'm gonna just show you a brief snippet of the one labeled 468 underscore number sign 1.mp4. Do you recognize what's depicted here?
yes, this is the initial Hyundai that I had stopped on the traffic stop.
Okay, and so do you recognize this particular file as the body worn camera of your interaction first with the Hyundai and then for the defendant on March 15th of 2023?
Yes,
Okay, and does this show the time that you activated your camera?
yes,
Okay, similar to what you testified to earlier?
yes,
And you've had an opportunity to see this entire 12 and a half minute long video, is that right?
yes,
Does it fairly and accurately depict the traffic stop and also your interaction with the defendant on the date and time that we've been discussing,
yes,
at the location that we've been discussing?
yes,
Your Honor, I move to admit and subsequently publish the file labeled 468 underscore number sign 1.mp4.
Spence,
No objection.
for the admitted and published.
Thank you. And let me just join my. Very loud. Yes, the microphone. Your Honor, permission to just put it up here. Yep. Away from the microphone.
Every year you have to sign on to the website. You probably just either go online or you may have to make an appointment. Yeah. this one or? You should bring it with you, okay? Okay. Sure, I'll be right back.
I honestly think this stop was BS and he was just harassing this woman. Hold on, y'all. Let me my bad. Y'all, let me get my camera back up. But you're right, Mitch. She wasn't listening to anything. No, not looking at the evidence, nothing. She just knew that she didn't like him or what he stood for or what he did. She didn't like his attitude, and she was gonna show him, you know. That's it. This wasn't based on this wasn't a this wasn't looking to get justice or to serve justice or anything like that. This whole thing had nothing to do with justice, what's right or wrong, nothing. She just wanted to prove a point. Or I think this is really to send a message. Yeah, this was to send a message. And the message is we have the power. That's basic. That's it. We have the power.
Hang on 1 second.
I'm gonna pause it at timestamp 9 minutes and 16 seconds. At this point, officer, do you see the unrelated male that you've been talking about enter camera view?
Yes, I do.
And could you just point to where he is in the video on my screen?
Yes, he's right here.
And let the record reflect, he identified a male wearing like a light colored blue jacket towards the middle of the screen. And is this the individual that you have been talking about, the defendant here today?
Yes.
Continue.
Don't engage my driver, back up. Hey, back up. Back up, you're not involved. You can tell me, you need to stay away from my driver.
So one thing, look how far away he is. He's not near the driver at all. I wouldn't call this near. He's in the area, but as he's approaching him, he's telling him to back up away from the driver. One step, 2 steps. He backed up again. What are you talking about? She deserves privacy. This is you pulled her over in public. What are you talking about? And now he's trying to act like he cares about her rights when he pulling her over to give her a ticket. Come on now. You're not protecting her. This cop is acting like he's protecting her while he's basically trying to rob her for some money. Like, come on now. That's like a robber coming up to you trying to steal your wallet. Somebody's recording it, and the robber goes up to the person recording it and tells them to back up. Come on, bro. He backed up. He's approaching him, telling him he needs to back up, and he keeps backing up. Now he tells him he's detained for what? They are far away from the stop right now. This is when the cop should have turned around and went back and handled what he had to handle. He's backed up all the way back because you approached him. So everything's over now, but somehow this got escalated to him having to arresting Chille And the somehow of how this happened is because Chille hurt his feelings by calling him a little doggy and telling him to get back to work.
So you can't stop. Come over here in my car. Come over here.
No.
You already go to the ground. You're detained right now. You're not telling me.
At that point, he was supposed to get his supervisor, which he didn't do. Look, so what's the issue? The traffic stop was over. So he was conducting an interview of somebody who got pulled over, and this cop didn't like that he told him. This is simply because the cop ego was hurt, and the judge knows this, yet she still ruled to throw him in jail for 6 months. Y'all, this is terrible. This is terrible.
Officer, at 11:38, or just a little bit before, there was another officer that comes onto the screen. Who's that?
This is Officer Dingley.
Put your hand behind your back, not reaching this phone.
And that concludes the 12-minute and 31-second video. The video marked 468 _ number sign 1.mp4. Officer, at some point after this interaction that we just saw, did you come to realize that your body worn camera had accidentally or inadvertently turned off?
Yes,
Okay. And at what point in time did it turn off?
it would have turned off at the completion of the video that we just saw. Prior
To what?
to the handcuffing.
Okay. Did you we noticed Officer Dingle show up to the scene though?
Yes,
Okay. And do you know whether he had his body worn camera turned on?
yes, it was activated.
Okay. And so what would have been missed by the inadvertent turning off of your body worn camera would have been captured on Officer Dingle's body worn camera?
Yes,
Okay. And did I allow you to look at that video footage from Officer Dingle this morning prior to testifying here today?
yes, you did.
And did you have an opportunity to look at it to determine whether it was in fact the video related to this event?
Yes, I looked at it and it was the video related.
Okay. And so I'm gonna turn your attention now to the video labeled 416B- or .mp4, and I'm just gonna,
It says 4.68.
Oh, I'm sorry. Is that B or D? I think it's a B, Jim. 416B. Not MP4
Okay.
or 8. And I just played the first 13 seconds, but actually I'm gonna fast forward. Now, for the record, the video is upside down. It recorded upside down? Yes?
Yes, it did.
All right. Actually,
Why would it record upside down?
Ma'am, there's a setting in the application where you can rotate it. This officer may not have checked that beforehand.
Stopping or starting at 4:54, timestamp on the video that we've been talking about. Do you recognize what's depicted, at least in this still portion?
Yes, this is me and DeCastro in front of my patrol vehicle.
Okay, and so to your knowledge, after having watched this, does this fairly and accurately depict your interaction with the defendant on March 15th of 2023 as caught on camera by Officer Dingley's body worn camera?
Yes.
Move to admit 416 B or 8 MP4.
No objection.
You know if it's an 8 or a B for sure.
It looks like a B too.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, I lose. All right.
Okay,
416B.MP4 will be admitted and published.
thank you. And I'm just gonna start from 4:54. And may I approach you on it?
Can we move the water bottle so you can see it too?
Of course.
Thank you.
You can come on.
You can
Thank you.
choose.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, I just want to say, let me go ahead and highlight Mitch's MGM's comment right here. And like y'all was saying earlier, his lawyer is trash. Like, I don't know how his lawyer didn't object to anything, like y'all said. I don't know how he, like, come on now. I can't wait to see the questions that his lawyer asked and how he picks apart this story, because from what I'm seeing is, so you basically made this, so basically the officer is saying that he escalated the situation that didn't have to be a situation. And you know, for one, if somebody is outside recording, obviously recording, what's the issue? Oh, you're saying they need to back up. So he did back up. So now you're saying, okay, you want him to back up some more. Well, how much do you want him to back up? You didn't say, you just keep saying back up, back up, back up, which is crazy. Then he's all the way back up. He backed all the way up. And then what triggered you was, and this is what the lawyers should have pointed out, and I don't know how they didn't, is, so it seems like at this point where when he called you a name, this, at that point, it seemed like you were emotionally triggered. Is that what caused you to detain him? And I would look for the reaction of this officer based on that question, because you know it would have got a reaction. And then I would have kept going into that. But I don't know what his lawyer did at this point, but I'm sure interested to find out. So we'll see. Kels Bells, what's up? What's up?
Any way to rotate it so it's right side up?
It's the video.
This way.
There you go.
How stupid was that? It, hold on, let me make sure he did he say, maybe I'm mistaken now, I'm gonna back it up. But did he say if you don't put your hands behind your back, you're going to jail. Hold on, I know he didn't say that. Like he wasn't going to jail before, like he wasn't going to jail already.
Can you tell me about that? Can you tell me just a little bit?
Okay, I'm gonna stop it at 11:35. So officer, did the body worn camera portions that we played, or that I played, fairly and accurately depict your interaction with the defendant on March 15th of 2023?
Yes, it did.
Concerning, I just want to talk with a little bit about what was depicted in the video. In the video from your body worn camera, it shows, you know, the state of your stop with the Hyundai driver. Do you recall that?
Yes,
Okay. And at some point prior to you making contact with the defendant, you noticed him kind of recording further away from the vehicle, correct?
yes.
And at that point in time, you didn't have a problem with that. You didn't really approach the defendant yet, correct?
Correct.
It was when he started making contact with the driver, your stopped driver, that you approached him and asked him to back up.
Yes.
And it's
And if his lawyer doesn't point out, okay, what part of that is illegal? What part of that is illegal? You can talk to people. You don't, it's not a force field around that traffic stop where you can't talk to the person that you can. What law is that? What law? If he doesn't ask him, what law did he break by talking to the driver of the car that you pulled over? What law did he break by doing that? I know it's gonna be crickets because it's, come on, man. How his lawyer doesn't, I don't know how his lawyer doesn't, you know, get this whole case thrown out.
at some point in time in the video, it's recorded.
But I think they all in on it. The lawyer, the judge, the prosecutor, the cop, the whole department, and the back end of this, all of them was just gunning to railroad Chille because they don't like him. And you know, this is not about my personal feelings about Chille or supporting Chille personally. This case is insane. It's insane what's happening here.
You told him that he is allowed to record, but he just needed to back up.
Yes.
Okay. And what was the reason for you trying to maintain, one, the lack of no contact with the stopped person, and two, trying to gain distance between the defendant, yourself, and the stopped driver?
My first intention is I wasn't trying to delay my traffic stop any longer than it had to be. I was trying to make it as short as possible for the driver. And then the second was for officer safety. What we're taught in the academy is that for a normal human's reaction time with open ground, anything within 21 feet, that suspect would be able to charge an officer without them being able to react in time.
All right. And at that point in time, you were the only officer present, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And when he began, or when the defendant failed to obey your command to back up, that's when you decided to engage him.
Yes.
Okay. questions for this witness. Thank you.
Good morning, officer. How are you doing?
Morning, sir. I'm well. How are you?
Very well. How many feet did you order the defendant to back up specifically?
I never had an opportunity to give him an exact distance.
He had every opportunity from the first words. Hey, I need you to stand back 15 feet instead of just back up, back up, back up. So let's see if the lawyer continues on that, because I feel like that's a good question. You just gonna let him get away and say he didn't have the opportunity to? There was nothing there but space and opportunity.
How far back did you intend to have him back up, even if you didn't express that?
In the background of the video, you could see that there was a parked semi-truck and a light pole. I would have directed him somewhere in that area, which would have been outside the 21 feet.
Your testimony is you never told him an exact distance to back up, correct?
Yes, he never allowed me to.
What do you mean you never allowed
Stop
him?
trying to blame him.
I asked him if
He's still trying to blame him on this. He didn't stop you from telling him how far he needs to go back. He did not stop you from that. That could have been the first words out your mouth.
to back up, and he continued arguing with me.
So maybe I'm wrong. Maybe his lawyer not trash. It's just they was gonna railroad him regardless of whatever. But we'll see.
So I can never specify exact distance for him.
But you had time to give him 5 commands to back up, is that correct?
Yes,
Your testimony is he never backed up when you were giving him commands, is that correct?
if he backed up, it may have been inches, but he didn't substantially back up.
You didn't tell him how far.
And you just reviewed the body worn camera from your chest, is that correct?
Yes,
Okay. You didn't notice him backing up every time you directed him to back up?
he did not back up.
So you backed up 0 feet, in your opinion? Based on that video?
Not 0 feet.
What was that?
He didn't back up 0 feet. He was moving his feet. As to exactly how far he went back, I don't know, but it wasn't substantial.
So okay, did he back up or did he not back up? So did you just tell? So I would have been like, so did you just lie to me when you say he didn't back up? Because you just say he just backed up, but now you're saying it's not significant. And you're saying it's not significant. Why didn't you initially start off the conversation by engaging him and say, hey, I need you to back up this amount of feet? Why did you not start the conversation or start the interaction in that way, officer?
What would have,
As to exactly how far he went back, I don't know, but it wasn't substantial.
He not digging enough for me. The lawyer not digging enough.
what would have been substantial in your opinion, or what do you mean by that?
I would have guided him if he wasn't arguing with me back toward the light pole and the parked semi-truck.
And
Would have
That is unreasonable. That's unreasonable.
been outside of the 21 feet. That was my goal.
So in your opinion, you have the ability, or you would in any traffic stop, ask somebody to look back 21 feet, is that correct?
Yes, for our training,
And what was that training?
that while we're conducting lawful activity, we're allowed a reasonable distance to conduct our activity.
21 feet is not reasonable.
But where do you get that 21 feet number from specifically?
That's taught to us in the academy. It's based on reaction time, normal human reaction time to a threat.
So your position is anytime you're engaged in any law enforcement activity, you would create a 21 feet perimeter?
Not necessarily, it depends on other environmental factors such as obstacles, barriers.
So your testimony is that every time you conduct a traffic stop, as long as there's no barriers, you would order a pedestrian to back up 21 feet, is that correct?
I would, yes.
What training do you have in regards to the First Amendment?
It's standard academy training.
Can you explain what that entails?
Usually includes a classroom setting, PowerPoint taught by police officer, academy officer.
Do you remember receiving that training specifically?
Yes,
How long ago was that?
when I was first employed about 8 years ago.
Do you have any follow-up training?
Specifically on First Amendment, we've had some follow-up training regarding First Amendment auditors.
Okay, can you explain what that follow-up training was?
The follow-up training was just a refresher on the First Amendment and how the department wants to handle or react to First Amendment auditors.
In that training, did they explain any case law governing how many feet somebody has to move back or anything like that?
Objection, Your Honor, at this point, of relevance, I think it's beyond the scope of, the charges that you are to determine guilt.
Wow. So as soon as he gets started, she's objecting, but his lawyer didn't object to anything when it was plenty of stuff he could have objected to, like plenty. That's weird.
On this.
Can you tell me what's the relevance?
Yes, Your Honor.
What are you talking about? It's obvious what the relevance is. He trying to see if the cop has any idea of the First Amendment, what it entails, and did that training tell you anything about a distance that we have to have while we're exercising our First Amendment right? I mean, come on. But you see the judge just look at her, man. She is despicable.
He detained the defendant after issuing commands back up a particular distance. He's testified he's received training. I should be entitled to cross-examine him about what that training is and how he's coming up with the specific numbers he's using to
I think her objection was with respect to the case law that you're inquiring about.
Your Honor, our position is if he is issuing commands that are contrary to that case law and he's been trained on that case law, then there can't be an obstruction of justice.
So I'm going to sustain the objection and ask you to move along.
Have you had any prior issues enforcing the First Amendment?
No,
Somebody said a comment that made me think of something too. So the officer did say that he didn't have a problem. So this cop is switching it up because now he need to be a certain feet back, but you didn't have a problem with him until you started talking to the driver. So which one is it? Is it that he was talking to the driver or that he was too close? Because earlier you said, well, you observed him filming and you didn't have a problem with that, but then you started engaging with the driver. Then you demanded him back up, and he backed up, but you didn't tell him how many feet you wanted him to back up. But and then you say he didn't move. Then you say he did move, but it wasn't substantial or it wasn't the amount of space that you wanted. Then you said, well, how far did you want it? Well, I wanted to walk him to the space and that was going to be approximately 21 feet. So why didn't you say from the jump, hey, back up 21 feet? Why didn't you say that in the initial, when you initially saw him recording? Why did you wait until he was talking to the driver to now enforce this 21 feet rule? This is me. This is what I would say as a lawyer in the court. That's that's going to be my position on that. And I'm going to be pretty assertive about that and getting an answer. I don't think this lawyer is not assertive enough for me. Look at him. he sit back like this. He's not being assertive. He's not. Come on. Like some of the questions or the questions they asking are good questions, but he's not digging into them and getting real answers and really standing on anything.
Prior to this event taking place, had you heard of Jose DeCastro?
No,
Do you recall when you first heard about First Amendment auditors specifically?
Go for it.
it would have been in the academy.
So that was when you were first trained? You had heard about the auditors back then?
Yes, when we were learning about the First Amendment, they would typically bring up issues that might be a frequently seen thing. And First Amendment auditors are typically the ones that we encounter when there's First Amendment claims against us.
Do you have any belief that First Amendment auditors are likely to be violent?
Objection, relevant.
What's the relevance?
Uh,
I'm only concerned with Mr. DeCastro. Okay,
Your Honor, one of the legal issues at question here is whether or not these commands are reasonable. I think that has to be based upon his past experiences in training.
It is obvious that this is all they're all conspiring to railroad this citizen who committed no crime. It's obvious, it's blatant.
Steve,
During this traffic stop in particular, what specific factors led you to believe there might be a danger to officer safety?
Based on his proximity to my driver, based on his demeanor being argumentative, based on his physical demeanor, his veins were popping out of his neck as he was yelling at me.
You could see his veins popping out of his neck from your back where your vehicle is.
When I was at the driver's side window, I could see that, but not in my car.
So when you see him walking out from your car, what is your specific concern regarding officer safety at that point in time?
Well, it's my safety and the safety of the driver. I don't know who this person is. I've never met him before. He could be peaceful, he could be violent, I just don't know. There's so many unknown factors. And I also have a responsibility to protect that driver. If I were in that driver's position, I wouldn't want to be approached by some random person recording an interview.
If you were in that driver's position, you wouldn't have wanted to get pulled over by the police so they can extort you for money. You're not you can't. How are you going to be the robber and protector? You're going to be the robber, the extorter, and the protector? Come on now. Get out of here.
Did you ever ask the driver their opinion about whether they wanted him there or not?
No, my first step
Objection,
was,
relevance.
sustained.
Was your primary concern him speaking to the driver or him not backing up allegedly?
my primary concern was safety. I don't know if he was armed or what his intention was.
Do you presume someone is armed and dangerous just because they're in public?
I can't rule out that he's unarmed.
But you had no reason to believe he was armed on this occasion?
No, nobody had told me he was armed, and I didn't see any weapons visible, but he was wearing clothing that could have easily concealed weapons.
Crazy. This is insane, man.
So when you first came upon the scene, you were in your vehicle typing on your computer, is that correct?
Yes,
And what were you doing in relation to that traffic stop at that point in time?
conducting a background check to see if her license was valid, to see if she had any criminal history to help me make my.
Y'all, his public defender didn't even stand up. Like, he didn't even stand up. Like, that's crazy.
decision whether to warn her or issue citation.
You stated your belief that the driver was entitled to privacy,
I did say that.
and what do you mean by that?
Instead of continuing to give him commands to back up, I said something different to try and help him understand. She's really not entitled to privacy, but she's entitled to safety.
So your explanation is that you said that because you were just trying to convince him to back up, not because you believed.
Yes, if I continue to give the command to back up and he's not listening, I can't expect something different to happen if I just keep saying back up.
In your police report, do you recall referencing the fact that he had due notice in your opinion of what you were commanding him to do?
Yes, when I gave him 4 commands to back up, those do notice.
But you'll agree with me that he did not have notice as to the distance you wanted him to back up, is that correct?
That's correct.
And you said he backed
Approximately
up.
how long were you?
And you said that he backed up. So why didn't his lawyer say, do you agree that he did back up, but you didn't give him a specific measurement of how far you want him to back up? And the amount that he did back up, you just said it wasn't substantial, but he did back up, correct? Like this lawyer, I don't know how I have more sense than lawyers who practice law for years and years and years. I just don't. There's no way. There's no way that my common sense and logic is better than years of law school. There's no way. I don't believe that. I don't believe that. So something has to be going on. It can't be that much of a clown show of how a normal person who hasn't been to law school, none of that, just use regular common sense and logic, has better questions. And I don't, it's come on. How is his lawyer? I wonder, like, how do lawyers not have more sense than than just a normal person like me? It's unbelievable. It has to. No, I just don't believe it. Is it on one hand of should I have become a lawyer, or they make it seem like it can't be that difficult to become a lawyer. It can't be if I have more common sense and logic. It can't be, but I know that that's not true because it takes a lot of work to become a lawyer. So this is embarrassing for lawyers in general, attorneys, all that. This is like, I know that the real attorneys and the real lawyers have to clown attorneys like this because come on. I don't believe it. I don't believe that I have more. I don't believe that I could be a better lawyer than a lawyer that went to law school for years and years and years. So my level of logic, reasoning, and understanding and comprehension, come on. Theirs has to be what 10, 20 times more. They studied this.
Issuing these commands to him before you decided to take the defendant?
Approximately 15, 20 seconds.
And your testimony is you didn't have any time during the entire back and forth to tell him a specific distance to back up to?
Not time, but no opportunity.
How so?
Well, every time I tried to speak with him, he would argue he wasn't listening at all. So if he's not understanding back up, how would he explain something that was more complex?
Well, what was preventing you from saying back up to a particular location?
First, I would want him to back up, and then if he didn't back up far enough, I would give him an exact location.
That's the setup. That's the setup right there.
But you never did, correct?
No, I never did.
No. How does his lawyer not go in on that? That's a setup. That did you hear what he just said? Let's go back.
Particular location.
First,
What stopped you or prevented you from telling him to back up to a certain point? You said, come on, man.
how would he explain something that was more complex?
Well, what was preventing you from saying back up to a particular location?
First, I would want him to back up, and then if he didn't back up far enough, I would give him an exact location.
That's the setup right there. How is he supposed to read your mind and know how far you wanted him to back up? That is a setup. That is a setup within itself.
But you never did, correct?
No, I never did.
Did the defendant's verbal comments towards you influence what you decided to do that day?
No,
On the video, did you see that the point in time you decided to detain him was specifically after he made an insulting comment towards you?
that wasn't why I chose to detain him. I realized that he wasn't going to back up at that time.
His comments didn't make you angry at him?
No.
In your review of the video just now, he had both hands in front of him the entire time, is that correct?
No, at one point he reaches toward his back pocket to pull out his second phone.
Did you quickly see that it was a second phone he was going for?
Yes,
Okay. So once you see him produce the second phone in his hands, he's obviously not reaching for a weapon, is that correct?
at that time, no, he wasn't.
What time of day did this occur at?
If I remember correctly, I think it was around 4:30 in the afternoon.
And this was in a broad public place.
Yes,
Does the fact that this occurred in broad daylight in public influence your decision making as far as issuing commands to the defendant?
it could. In this particular case, it didn't.
And why is that?
There was nobody around us other than me and the driver and DeCastro.
You testified he swatted your hand away. Is that your testimony today?
Yes, that's the best way I can describe it.
And you saw his arm do this, or you just felt it?
I saw it and felt it.
Do you recall in your police report stating that you did not believe his intent was to harm you?
Yes, I wrote that.
And what is your basis for reaching that conclusion?
Well, he could have been charged with battery on a police officer, which would have been more severe. But I didn't think his intent was to hurt me, so I didn't charge him with that.
You testified today that one of the things you were concerned about was him not going over to your vehicle. Is that true?
Yes,
Will you agree with me that he actually did walk over to your vehicle at some point during the interaction?
yes, but it wasn't reasonable, the amount of time it took him.
What would be a reasonable amount of time?
Asking him to step in front of my car and then doing so immediately.
And how fast is it immediately?
This isn't based off of time, my response, it's just based off of interaction. I had to tell him he was detained multiple times. And I made it clear what he was detained for. I said he was detained for obstructing. And I gave him several commands to step in front of my car.
That's another one. So how this lawyer isn't touching on everything. So now you're saying he detained for obstruction. Well, obstruction is a physical act. So how did he physically obstruct you during your traffic stop? How did he physically obstruct you from the traffic stop? What did he do physically? Crickets. So, like this, come on now. No, this something is definitely up here. Everybody has to see this, and I can't believe I just can't believe that people were cheering this on and like, oh yeah, you see what happened to Chille? Good job, he deserved. Like, and they watched and they sat and watched this trial, and they see how like this is so underhanded and despicable. Everything, it was so biased from the jump. Everything was to get him to go to jail. All this is just a show. He was going to jail no matter what. Seems like maybe if he had a better defender, or that's why they wouldn't let him represent himself. But if I got to deal with a public defender who won't even stand up while he's asking these questions or anything like that, man, I'm better off just representing myself, because at least I can ask better questions. And come on, man. At least I know I can ask good questions. At least I know that. I might not have all the answers, but I know how to ask some good questions that'll get the answers I need.
So I would think a reasonable person would walk over to my car, and then we'd have a conversation there.
And how specifically did his presence obstruct your ability to complete the traffic stop?
Again, I don't know what his intention is. I don't know if he's armed. All I saw was him recording, which again, I had no issue with. I told him I had no issue with. At some point in time, if I were to issue citation to the driver, my focus would be on the driver and what's inside her car. At that point, I hadn't pulled her out. I hadn't pat her down. I don't know if she has any weapons in the car, or what her intent was, if there was anything underlying. So my intention on having DeCastro back up was so that I didn't have split attention. He was too close for me to have split attention.
And it's terrible. Oh,
So one of the things you stated that you were concerned about, I guess, from a safety point of view, was that he didn't identify himself. Is that true?
No, I didn't care about his identity until I had him detained.
Okay. At any point during the, I guess, detention of the defendant, did you pat him down to determine he didn't have any weapons?
I did.
Okay, and when was that during the duration of the interaction?
That was immediately after handcuffing.
Okay, did you discover any weapons on him?
No, I did not.
From your police car, while he's walking up, you can essentially have a complete view of his movements and what he's doing at that point in time. Were there other individuals around the traffic stop other than the defendant and the driver?
Not that I can remember.
Do you recall anyone walking through the scene and asking about the restaurant next door?
I don't remember that.
But your testimony is if there was someone else on the video, you would have been ordering that person to back up 21 feet.
I would have first asked them to back up, and most people do. And then if they did not comply, then I would give them a specific area to back up to.
ordered him not to speak to the driver, is that correct?
Yes, well, I remember asking him to back up. I don't remember if I specifically asked him not to speak to the driver. I think I may have said, don't talk to her, or something to that effect.
That was the whole reason. Now you don't remember you said that? That was the whole reason you said, come on, man. Come on. How is this attorney not following up and digging in on these things, man? No way. No way. How do I catch it as a regular person, but an attorney of years and years and years and years and years and years of schooling and practice doesn't pick up on that? I don't believe it. I know y'all say that, it happens, not, they, even though they may study it, but they don't know it. Man, this just, I call BS. If this is, if you can be this incompetent as a lawyer, man, it's not up there like I thought it was up there. You look at some of these fields, like some of these positions and job descriptions, and you think, oh, that person must be really intelligent, or that person must have a certain level of intelligence. They have to be, and then you realize, no, it's not like that. And that's how being a lawyer was presented to me when I was younger. It was made seem like they were so smart, and it, like, man, if things were presented to me differently, or I was able to see how crazy this stuff is, like, I would have pursued a lot of things that I thought were maybe out of my reach, at certain points. But come on. I I downplayed myself a lot, must be.
Did he speak to her before you got out of your patrol vehicle or afterwards?
Before I saw DeCastro filming, I stayed in my vehicle and continued my business. Then when I saw him speaking to the driver, that's when I exited.
Did you see him speak to the driver after you exited the vehicle at any point?
I don't remember if he spoke to the driver after I exited.
At any point, did you hear specifically what he may have said to the driver?
No, I was too far away and it was windy.
Is your position that anytime you're engaged in a traffic stop, nobody can speak to the driver?
They can speak to them at a reasonable distance.
And is that 21 feet?
It could be shorter, it could be longer. Again, depends on the environment, totality, the circumstances.
Do you think people can easily verbally communicate at 21 feet?
No, not without shouting.
Did at some point the defendant inform you that he was a member of the press?
He did.
Did that influence any of the orders you chose to give or not give to the defendant?
This attorney sucked.
No, it doesn't matter.
Public defender.
Why does it not?
Public pretender.
What is your basis of that statement, I guess?
Media, reporters, and standard citizens, they treat them all the same.
So you becoming aware that somebody is a member of the press does not,
This is crazy. I know they say public defenders, they have a lot of cases and they don't have time to go over every case, this and that. But in situations like this, I wouldn't have even needed to review or known that much about this case. I could have looked at this body cam footage, listened to his answers, and made the case based just on that, without doing further. Like, this seems like an easy case to win because no crime was committed and he didn't do nothing. This was pretty easy to prove. Come on, man. You didn't even need. You didn't. This would be a case you wouldn't even need to really prepare for because everything is right there.
Affect your decision-making in reference to your First Amendment training?
No, and how was I to know that he was a member of the press? Whenever I interact with members of the press, they usually identify what station they're with or a group that they're with. They usually have some sort of identification, name badge, and we have a good relationship with press out here. They don't approach us the way that DeCastro did.
Are you familiar with the difference between traditional press or independent media?
Yes, but again, independent media would approach us more respectfully than DeCastro.
Is your opinion that traditional media has different rights than new media, independent media?
Objection, Your Honor, at this point, I think we're well beyond the scope of.
Sustained.
Thank you.
And court's indulgence, I apologize.
How do you lose this case?
So your testimony is, if I recall
How
correctly,
did you
that you
lose?
received First Amendment training when you initially went through your officer training,
Yes,
and then you received one follow-up after that.
I can't, no, it was more than one. I don't know exactly how many. Typically that training is annual.
And your testimony, just to reiterate, this is the first time you've experienced a First Amendment issue of this nature in your career.
Objection, I believe I objected to that question when it was posed as a violent encounter and it was sustained. And I also objected on the grounds of relevance. As the court indicated, what we're concerned about is his interaction with the defendant specifically. And so I object.
Sustained, I'm only concerned about this interaction.
Yeah, not only did he when he did ask the right questions, he didn't follow up with those questions. He just kept going, and then he would ask stupid questions, and then just like he would just keep going on with the questions that didn't do anything for the case. Like this public defender is terrible, trash. And how you gonna be okay with this being on your record as a loss when it was so easy to win?
Do you recall during your interactions with the defendant that you told him that you believed First Amendment auditors often pull out guns and shoot people?
I didn't say that they often do that.
Do you recall what you said?
I don't. I would have said that he was a stranger to me and that officers get ambushed all the time. It could have been a First Amendment auditor. It could have been a regular citizen. It could have been a cook from one of the places nearby. I wouldn't have specifically said that First Amendment auditors are at higher risk.
I would have had to him every question to ask.
And again, just to reiterate, your testimony is that
Objection, I mean, anytime it's prefaced as just to reiterate, I feel like I should object on an asked and answered ground. And I'm not, just to hear it, but it just sounds like a reiteration of the questions that have been previously asked. So my objection is asked and answered.
I'm going to ask this question before I rule on your objection.
Look at the judge's face, man.
again, I'm just trying to
Look at
clarify,
her
because I think
face.
this point was ambiguous, but do you recall the defendant telling you that he was a member of the press during the interaction with the defendant?
Ask and answer.
Sustained.
Man, Chille got set up here. This is they did him dirty, man. This whole thing is a setup.
No further questions, Your Honor.
You redirect.
No, thank you.
Thank you, officer. You may step down.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Officer, stand by the ambulance, please.
Is the state rest?
At this point, we can
You let him get off the stand without. No, look at that, man. Not one time did this public defender even get out his seat. Dang, they did the man so dirty. If this ain't, if people can't tell that this whole thing was a setup from the jump, it's crazy. It's crazy that people agree with this. They think that they cheering it on just because somebody they don't like got railroaded. Like, come on, man.
Does the defense have any witnesses?
Your Honor, I call opposing DeCastro.
Raise your right hand to be sworn by the court. Do you solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Please be seated.
Mr. DeCastro, before you testify, I'm obligated to inform you that you have the right to testify in this proceeding, but you also have the right to remain silent. And should you choose to remain silent, I may not hold that against you in making my decision. Do you understand that?
I do.
Do you still wish to testify?
Yes, I do.
All right, please go ahead.
You have a YouTube channel.
Yes, I do.
Can you give some insight into what that channel was about?
objection, relevance.
That's the whole what? That's the whole
Your Honor, the
reason we're
relevance
there.
is that we're presenting a First Amendment defense, and the defendant is a member of the press. There's different standards for First Amendment rulings where there's public policy at issue. He can give insight into that.
I'm gonna allow it for a bit and see where it goes.
I can allow it for a bit and see where it goes. That's the judge's answer. Come on. What type of clown show is this courtroom right here?
Yes, I do have I do have a YouTube channel, and the reason I have a YouTube channel is because of how many cops kill people every year, how many cops hurt, maim, torture, rape, and kill people every single year. It's such an epidemic that the rest of the world, I get thousands of emails saying, only in America does this happen. I started filming cops because when I was cheated in 2002.
Objection at this point, relevance,
Well, this is the reason I'm a member of the press.
this narrative,
So can you ask him a question?
Yes, Your Honor. What type of films do you make for your YouTube channel?
I only film police in their official capacity. I'm known across the country and across the world.
And why do you engage in that type of filming?
So I'm gonna ask you, Mr. Mead, to direct your questions about the incident in question.
The reason I was
Kangaroo
filming
court.
this
That's what it's
report
called.
that day-
Kangaroo
objection,
court.
Your Honor.
That's what this is.
So
There wasn't a question posed, so
Oh, I-
I'm not here what it is.
Mr. DeCastro, on the question, why did you approach that vehicle?
I was filming that cop because that's what I do for a living. I am a member of the press. And I invoked my right to be press. I always invoke my right to be press within the first 10 seconds of engaging with police, and I have thousands of videos that prove this.
So this is how you make money.
This is not how specifically I make money. I make money from selling legal documents to people.
Okay, go ahead.
Do you recall the officer telling you to back up?
Yes, I did.
And what did you do after he told you to back up?
I took a couple steps back. I just showed him that I was willing to back up a little bit. However, if I may, in Arizona, they created a 10-foot law.
Objection, relevance, we're not in Arizona, it's the state of Nevada.
So I'm gonna allow it because I think that goes to why he kept saying 10 feet in the video, even though I will take judicial notice that you're not in the state of Arizona, you're in the state of Nevada.
Well, a federal judge struck it down, Your Honor, and what,
Stop. Can you ask him a question?
Yes, Your Honor. Approximately how many feet did you back up?
I backed up a foot or two. I was at least 10 feet away from that car that the driver was pulled over in.
And when you spoke to the driver, what did you say?
Just after she was okay. The reason I filmed police is because they abuse people so often.
Do you recall the officer telling you not to speak with the driver?
Yes,
And did you make any statements to the driver after that command was given?
absolutely not.
Did the officer ever give you a specific distance to back up to?
No, he didn't.
If he did, would you have complied with that?
Sure,
Did you believe you were complying with the officer's commands?
100%. I also informed him I'm a member of the press, I'm a constitutional law scholar, that this is what I do.
Do you recall the officer explaining to you why he decided to arrest you?
There's several parts to the reason why he said he was going to arrest me. He said he was going to arrest me because I wouldn't turn my head a certain direction. If I didn't turn and face the car with my head, that he would place me under arrest instead of just giving me a ticket.
Do you recall him explaining why he decided to detain you before he arrested you?
He decided to obtain me because he said I was obstructing, which from my understanding is a physical act where I would have to get in the way. He said that the driver deserved privacy. I believe my First Amendment rights are not up for feelings.
Did he explain to you that the basis of your detention was related primarily to the issue of privacy or the issue of you backing up?
Well, I think from the officer's testimony, we can see that he's scared of the driver, scared of me, scared of everything. They teach them to be afraid of everything. So I had 2 cameras out. It's identified as a member of the press. I'm sorry, repeat the question. I want to get it specific for the record.
Sure. The question was, did the officer explain to you that the basis of your detention was because of you not backing up or because of the privacy issue of the driver?
It was both. He said that, he told me to back up. I backed up a little bit. Then he said, she deserves privacy. And then I told him to go get in your car, little doggy, and write your ticket. And at that point, his face turned beet red and his veins in his neck stuck out because we were over 20 feet away. And you had to holler to hear each other because the wind was probably 30 miles an hour.
Did you at any point attempt to hit any of the officers involved?
No, absolutely not.
Did you intentionally swat any of the officers?
Absolutely not. He was giving me unlawful commands. I should not have been detained after identified as a member of the press. If he ever reached a hand out towards me, I wrestle and teach MMA and I have for 30 years. So it's just a natural reaction as I'm retreating from somebody. If I may have put my hand up, as he said, as he testified himself, I certainly am a law-abiding citizen. I don't break the law. So I would not have tried to assault an officer under any circumstances.
Is it possible that during the interaction, there was inadvertent contact between you and the officer?
Sure, he decided to go hands-on with me when he was giving me unlawful commands. And there was absolutely no reason for it. I was willing to comply with anything he asked within reason, because I don't want to have a fist fight with another man on the street.
Do you recall the officer ordering you to go to his patrol vehicle?
I do.
And what did you do in response to that?
Initially, I told him no, but then when he began to get physical with me and start to grab me and touch me, I said, okay, I'll go over to your car. His car was 35 feet away. I then led him to his car. It's on video, you can see it. I walked right up to his car, and then he insisted still on grabbing me. After he saw me pull out an additional phone, which that's what press people do. We have lots of cameras on us.
And did you inform the officer that you were a member of the press?
Oh, several times. It's in the transcripts. I've transcribed them myself. Several times I told him I'm a member of the press.
And did you explain to the officer that you have a background in constitutional law?
Yes, I told him I'm a constitutional law scholar, which was a moniker given to me by other people who are also, they have their own channels, their own press. And that's what some other lawyers on another channel called me 3 years ago. And I since adapted the moniker.
And just to get some, further background, were you looking for police to report on this particular day?
No, the cops hide on the side of the road to pull people over. It's pretty regular in our country. I was just in the parking lot there. I saw that Mr. Bork had somebody pulled over, concerned for her safety. I began to film.
And why do you think that law enforcement traffic stops are relevant to the public?
That's where most people get killed.
Objection relevance to that question, who's just right?
State,
I'll pass the witness, Your Honor.
state,
I have no questions for this witness.
sir, you may step down. This is Fed Trust,
Yes, Your Honor.
all right, the argument by the state,
Your Honor, the state asks you to find the defendant guilty of both the obstructing a public officer as well as resisting a public officer charged against him. The video very adequately portrays, and I don't think it's disputed by the defendant, what the context was of the interaction with the officer. I would venture to say that had the defendant just complied with the original order to not engage with the driver and to back up, we wouldn't be here. He wouldn't have found himself further engaging with Officer Bork. This is not a First Amendment issue. As you heard over and over and over again on video, Officer Bork did not have a problem with the defendant recording. It's not a First Amendment issue. It's an officer safety issue. Here you have an officer who conducted a lawful traffic stop. You saw the nature of the stop.
I would have look at her, look at the judge's body language as soon as she says officer safety. I would have pointed that out.
First Amendment issue, it's an officer safety issue.
Not
Here,
paying
you have an
attention.
officer who conducted a lawful traffic stop. You saw the nature of the stop. There was no animosity between the officer and the driver. It was rather peaceful. They were engaged, banter back and forth. He would have, as he testified, he was trying to determine whether he was going to cite her or let her go with a warning. And then you have an individual, the defendant, introduce himself to the situation. Traffic stops, Your Honor, are inherently dangerous, particularly in crowded parking lots. I guess anywhere, I would venture to say. This officer was reasonable in thinking that anyone who would approach in the manner that the defendant approached his scene would have a reason to fear for his safety, or at least be suspicious of this individual's motives coming.
Man, I can't. This public defender did nothing. Mitch, he did nothing. The questions, when he did ask good questions, he didn't follow up on those questions. He didn't object to none of the BS. He didn't even stand up. Like, why would you? What is he there for? All those questions are questions Chille could have asked himself. At least he could have objected something. But come on.
in. The officer had no problem with the recording. The officer had no problem with the defendant.
And the district attorney
He
is,
inserted himself
can't believe
into
her.
this lawful detention that was occurring with the Hyundai driver, that the officer turned his attention onto the defendant. This is not a First Amendment issue. This is an individual who took what he perceived to be his rights too far. The officer was well within his right, as well as acting reasonably when he asked him to back up.
Chille,
That
no,
21-foot
he already
rule,
know.
It's appropriate. He said that was the training that they received in terms of the distance that's allowed for someone who needs to do them harm. It's a threat assessment. We don't know when the defendant approached whether he had
Look at her.
a
That
gun
judge is
concealed, whether
terrible.
he had a knife
Terrible.
concealed, whether he had other weapons. And you'll hear multiple times in the video, Officer Bork yelling, "Stop reaching, stop reaching." This is an unknown, when defense counsel asked Officer Bork all of these questions about how it is that you do this, and Officer Bork kept responding, it depends on the situation, it depends on the totality of the circumstances. Here was an officer acting alone, individually, engaged one-to-one with a driver. He had no problem with it. You insert another individual who enters the scene in the manner that the defendant did. And now this officer's attention is going to be divided. He had every reason to fear for his safety as well as that of the driver. Again, if he had just complied with the officer's commands or demands to back up, And, you know, a lot was made about, hey, he didn't have an opportunity
Look
to
at
tell
her.
them to back
Look
up.
at her.
And, you know, a lot was
The,
made about, hey, he didn't have an opportunity to make. I
Watch
had
this.
every reason to fear for his safety as well as that of the driver. Again,
if he had just complied, then look at the judge's face.
just complied with the officer's commands or demands to back
He's
up.
like, yep.
And, you know, a lot was made about, hey, that of the driver. Again, if he had just complied with the officer's commands or demands to back up, and, you know, a lot was made about, hey, he didn't have an opportunity to tell the defendant exactly how far back. As the officer testified, even just with the, hey, back up, the defendant didn't back up, not willingly. That's why the officer had to continue to engage with him and force him into the situation. Had he complied, he would not have been charged with obstruction. Had he complied initially, he would not have been charged with the resisting. The officer was, you are gonna have to assess credibility. There's nothing in the video or Officer Board's testimony that would cause the court to question his veracity or his intention for that matter. He was very honest in that he didn't believe the defendant wasn't trying to harm him necessarily with the SWAT. That's why the defendant wasn't charged with the battery on a protected person or police officer. But that SWAT, Your Honor, I would argue, was meant to resist. At that point in time, the officer was trying to detain him and subsequently arrest him on the obstruction, as depicted in the video. And so at this point, I think we proved by beyond a reasonable doubt that the defendant did hinder Officer Board's investigation and detention of the Hyundai driver, and that he resisted the officer's arrest and or attempt to arrest him. And so we would ask that you find the defendant guilty of both.
What do you mean attempt? He did get arrested.
Yes, Your Honor. So first of all, you cannot obstruct an unlawful order. I disagree with the state that this is not.
Now, this is the first time he stood up. I don't understand. And his whole demeanor is like, come on, man. And I wonder why they don't zoom in on Judge's face here, but they did on the prosecutor.
A First Amendment issue. The First Amendment in this context actually has two parts. There's the filming and the right to film within a reasonable distance. The case law in all the federal circuits, Your Honor, there's no 21 feet rule that's been approved by any court of which I'm aware. That there is a 10-foot rule.
Why is he not looking at the judge? Who is he looking at right here? Who is he directing this to? What is he looking at the clock, or why is he facing the judge?
That seems to be the rule that is applied by most of the federal circuits in interpreting the First Amendment.
Like he just talking like, that's like, that would be like me doing a live stream like this. Yeah, y'all. So y'all see what's happening right here? It's just insane, crazy. I don't agree with that. Like, come on, man. What are you doing? You need to be looking directly at the judge. But this is another reason why, you know, like we've been saying throughout this whole entire case, is that it's all a setup. He was railroaded from the beginning.
I submitted a bench brief that kind of goes through that issue, if the board's had a chance to review that.
I don't have that. When did you submit it?
It was submitted yesterday, Your Honor.
I mean, at this point, I would move to strike because it's untimely, but
Dang.
I got it this morning when I walked into court.
Go ahead.
So the officer's testimony that there's essentially this 21-foot distance where anybody can charge an officer and cause physical harm to an officer, if that is applied universally, Your Honor, it totally diminishes and violates the First Amendment. That is, as the officer testified, a 21-foot radius that he can attempt to impose. I believe his testimony was anytime there's not an obstacle between a person and somebody that law enforcement is interacting with. And that's just not what the law requires, Your Honor. The First Amendment gives their media, new media, old media, it gives individuals the right to film government agents. There's no dispute that
Telling you,
that's the
man.
requirement. And if the officer is applying this 21-foot circumference to all law enforcement interactions, he's effectively eliminated the ability to film law enforcement going about their duties. The commands to not talk to the driver are also not based on any actual legal justification. There's no right to privacy in public, whether you're engaged with law enforcement or not. There's no requirement or no statute, no law that citizens can't interact with drivers that are interacting with law enforcement. So what's taken place here, Your Honor, is that this officer has taken it upon himself to essentially act as the legislature and created these rules that have no basis in any law, and in fact are contrary to the First Amendment. Again, you can't obstruct an unlawful demand, so there is no obstruction of justice here. Resisting arrest, Your Honor, the court can see the video. Essentially what happened is he walked over to the front of the vehicle. There was some dispute about why he was being detained. That was discussed. The case law in that area, Your Honor, is that if it's an unlawful arrest, which it was in this case because they're essentially arresting him for violating these unlawful orders that they're pronouncing. Again, the case law is you can passively resist an unlawful arrest, and that's all that occurred here. Thank you.
Wow. You see the
All
good-
right, Mr.
That's
DeCastro,
over.
PC,
That's over.
the problem with the argument that your attorney makes is it completely fails to consider the safety of the officer and the safety of the driver.
What?
The officer doesn't know who you are, and the driver doesn't know who you are. And you don't have any right to interfere with that officer doing his investigation and deciding if he wants to
I
issue a
see.
ticket to this driver. And you also don't have any business approaching the driver. The driver didn't ask you for help. The driver didn't say, help, help, you know. You didn't see an altercation happening between the officer and this driver. The officer didn't protest that you were.
Her mind was already made up. And it's biased off the rip. And the title, the Honorable Ann Zimmerman, as she's, look at her. Look at her. She's looking disheveled, burnt out, terrible, 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 terrible. You can tell she's terrible on the inside because she's terrible on the outside. Just terrible, man.
Filming, there's no problem with filming. You can film, it's fine. All right? But you did interfere with his investigation. You did interfere with his ability to do his job.
No, how? She knows she lying because for one, it was over. The car had already pulled off. What are you talking about now? Why are we at this point now when the driver's not even there anymore? The driver had already left. Situation was over. He backed up. Then you said it wasn't about him. It wasn't about him talking to the driver. It's because he didn't back up as far as you wanted him to back up, but you didn't tell him how far. This is a clown show, man. Hey, come on. I can't believe this. He about to get sentenced for this,
You
man.
did put him in a position where he is concerned for his safety and the safety of the driver. So I believe the state's met their burden beyond reasonable doubt. I'm going to find you guilty of obstructing a public officer and resisting a public officer.
Oh.
So I'd like to hear from the state and then your attorney prior to sentencing.
Your Honor, in terms of sentencing, I would ask federal defendant enter and complete an impulse control class. I would ask that the court levy a $500 fine or the equivalent in community service. I would ask that the defendant be ordered to stay out of trouble for the pendency of the case. And I would ask for a 90-day suspended sentence. And that's on as to each count to one concurrent.
Thank you.
Your Honor, I'm asking the court to sentence the defendant to credit for time served for these offenses.
This public defender, bro, get yourself together, man.
Even if the court concludes, and the court did conclude that he didn't have the right to do what he did, I think the court can see that he sincerely believed that he had the right to do so.
Because he
that's
does.
Based on his past experiences and the training he's received in reference to the First Amendment. I don't think there was any intent from the defendant to engage in any wrongdoing in this case, Your Honor. And that being the case, especially because of the public policy interests at issue.
So when you say he doesn't wish to engage in any wrongdoing, it seems to me from observing
He didn't. Nothing he did was wrong.
him in the video that he wants this. He wants to get arrested. He wants to get into an altercation with police officers. He welcomes this. This helps his YouTube channel. He called the officers here in my courtroom today pigs. He called and he's nodding his head up and down. So apparently he hates every law enforcement officer in the United States. All right, please stand up, sir. Are you finished with your request for credit for time, sir?
I would just emphasize, Your Honor, that
He can't wait.
the defendant testified and he sincerely believes that he is providing a public service when he refused.
I wouldn't have stood up,
and
bro.
these incidents.
Stand up for
I
what?
understand the court may have a different view of that, but when we're talking about First Amendment public policy issues such as supervising people involved in government, I think that is something the court can take into consideration, not to show any effect on that. I'll spit on it, Your Honor.
Yeah, okay.
Thank you. Mr. DeCastro, please stand. I hereby sentence you to
Stand
90
up,
days in
please.
the Clark County Detention Center on count 1, 90 days in the Clark County Detention Center on count 2, to run consecutive for a total of 180 days in custody. Thank you.
Sentence suspended or?
Oh, no, I'm going to start right now.
They couldn't wait, man. They couldn't wait.
Can you put two, please? I'm going to show the check. This is a travesty of justice. Unbelievable. I don't like police.
Unbelievable.
They'll put me in jail for half a year.
It's a travesty.
How long have I been in the
Look, he is.
How long have I been in the
Good, go look at his face. That's the guy. That's the guy right there. Hold on, let me take the screenshot of that.
Yeah. Can I get my keys off?
Yeah, man. So to sell you up the road for this one, man. What did you do to make them not like you so much, man? Look at that.
I'll get your stuff. Get a hold of my assistant, James.
Dang, Chille. Dang. All right, y'all. Let's get back. So, y'all let me know y'all final thoughts on what just happened here. Man. Oh no, we can start right now. Yeah, like no, we ain't suspending nothing. We've been ready to do. I was ready to do this since you walked in here, is what she said. She was, man, painting her own narrative, stating her own feelings, and come on, man. You're right, Karen. She is an absolute disgrace. No way her name should be honorable anything. But with the last name Zimmerman, you already know some. man. Unbelievable. Like in this situation, I wouldn't care if you hated Chille's guts. Like if you just didn't like him as a person, it just, you had every bad thing to say about him. That has nothing to do with how this case went along. This case was handled terribly. And it was so many things from when he first walked in to when they got started to the prosecutor and the DA getting to have her way with everything. And then when his attorney goes to try to make points or do something, objection is, it was just terrible. His attorney didn't even stand up. Like his attorney wouldn't even look at the judge. Like it definitely so much stuff going on with this. I mean, dang. I'm mad at that, man. I'm mad at that one, boy. Exactly. That's why I say I'm not even the biggest fan of him, but this was ridiculous. This how terrible this was, man. And how eager she was to, sentence him, and you could tell, like as soon as his attorneys stopped talking, she was like, well, okay, let's go ahead and wrap this up, and let me go ahead. She was looking at him the entire time, like, no matter what happens here, what's said, it's gonna be the same ruling. Like, come on, man. He gotta appeal this. He got to. One big sham, yeah. Yeah, the way she was treating him and talking to him before anything got started was crazy. So this, you have a judge, and also I didn't say this throughout the entire trial, but I did hear that she is married to a cop, so that says a lot. Which that right there should be a what do they call, Mitch? What do they call that? I know it's a conflict of interest, but it's something to where you should be able to at least get another judge. Like I would at least try to get another judge, because I argue that she would be biased because her husband is cop. Like that's obvious bias right there. Disqualify her. That would have been my first, like, oh, we need to disqualify her. You got to find out about these people and then see, okay, well, this and this. She had bias. You could tell. She didn't even hide the bias from us. I don't know, man. I hope Chille still tries to fight this and don't just lay down on this one, because it's, come on, man. 6 months and you didn't do nothing. You literally didn't do nothing wrong. Dang, man. Mitch said they won't even consider it unless you can prove the bias. But I mean, with her husband being a cop, and she would be biased on, I think she would be biased on this case, especially, and it showed as soon as the DA mentioned officer safety and complying, you could see her reactions to that. That's bias. Those are biased reactions. And I will go back and I will point this out. Look at the bias right here. He's been going on here's the deal as often as he can. Man, this is crazy. Like, you know, I can only imagine how the people who actually like Chille are feeling about this. Those are the ones that are gonna, you know, be taking this to another level. But even if you don't like him, don't agree with how he does what he does, you just can't go along with this kangaroo court in this trial. Because come on now, you can see that it wasn't right from the jump. And people, anybody who's okay with that, like, and cheering on, like, I know trolls are loving this right now, but y'all see in a lot of my comments, I just comment, you played yourself. Because if you are happy about what happened to him, or cheering it on, and, you know, saying, oh, he finally got what he deserved and this and that, or talking about him personally, and not the travesty of justice and the miscarriage of justice, then you played yourself. Because we all are, this can happen to anybody. Unbelievable. But yeah, y'all, I'm about to get off here. And that's crazy. I'm gonna be working on getting this video up, and so I can post it. But man. I'm gonna be doing some shorts on this case as well. But man, it's a sad day for Americans in general. This is not just Chille's issue. This is attack on the First Amendment. It's attack on just citizens in general. And it goes to show you that just because you know, and I want people to know that, okay, don't be so eager to take that trip just because you know that you are in the right. Because you see, if you in the right, then it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you're in the right, because you could still end up going to a judge like that, you know. Yeah. Man. But yeah, y'all, go ahead and, you know, hit up the comment section. But I will be you know, doing some editing to this and actually posting it as a video instead of just, you know, my live stream. But yeah, y'all, with that being said, AWB, I'm out. I appreciate everybody. Thank you for sticking around with me for this. And yeah, this was a crazy one.